Hey guys, it's Dani. Today I'm going to tell you why I prefer orchid hybrids to species. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will too. Because I will be honest, this video is a very happy, feel-good video masking a pretty real problem that we are facing with plants generally. Maybe in the orchid hobby not as much, but there's no point in hiding it. We have some issues with some plant species that are being threatened with extinction due to many reasons, but in some cases mainly due to poaching. It's due to us collecting them. So I feel the need to do something about it in the only way that I know how, by creating a video about it. And I was actually inspired to do this video by Summer Rain Oaks, who just started her new podcast. Very excited about her new adventure, and I love that she chose the topic of poaching and illegal trading of plants. So we're gonna talk about something serious today, but in a light way. Something that I hope will be appealing to you as I tell you the honest reasons why, and you might know this, I do prefer hybrids to species, and why maybe you should too, or at least give them a chance. So before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it, and why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week. But if you're feeling extra and you'd like to further support the channel, and you can, consider using the affiliate links down below, checking out the merch, becoming a member, or using the super thanks option below my videos. Righty, I have a list as always. So the number one reason why I prefer hybrids to species is that collecting hybrids does not affect the wild populations of orchids out there, because if there's no demand for species, there's also no poachers getting them illegally from the wild. Now, let me clarify something. Even if we do actually have orchid species in the hobby, they are not taken from the wild if purchased from reputable sources. They have been in the hobby so long that tissue culture is so routine in this hobby that even Schilleriana and Bellina can be propagated very safely and efficiently in cultivation. We don't need to get them from the wild. Does this mean that they're okay and they're safe? No. There are still people who get them from the wild and offer them for sale in places which are not so reputable. So before purchasing a species, it is a very good idea to research just a little bit the nursery we are purchasing from or the sellers. In recent years, many private sellers have started to do business on Etsy, eBay, and other shops. I am not saying that they are not trustworthy. I'm saying that I do believe we need to research a little bit more private sellers than older reputable nurseries. And even so, I personally cannot guarantee that even reputable nurseries have all of their stock propagated in cultivation. So if you are concerned, you can just send them an email and ask about the provenance of these species. And I have hope that reputable sellers and sellers that have been around for decades will do their due diligence, or at least they will be honest. That is my hope. But I do believe statistically you have a better chance of obtaining cultivated orchid species from reputable sellers than private sellers you don't know anything about. So I would be very careful with that. I love some species, but honestly, if I were to choose between the species of orchids, the very few species of orchids in comparison to hybrids that I have, I would still prefer the hybrids personally. So by acquiring more hybrids, or at least not staying away from hybrids, we are actually reducing, without doing anything in particular, the amount of poaching of orchid species. Makes sense. No demand for species, no need to poach them because nobody's interested, nobody will pay for them. And before we move on with the second reason for preferring hybrids, two more things I wanted to tell you. Many years ago, I heard somebody say that they knew an orchid collector or grower or hybrider, I don't remember. They knew somebody who was only collecting species. And they used to say that if a pollinator doesn't recognize it, neither do I. At the time when I addressed it in a video, I said, well, everybody has their quirks. Now I'm gonna say something else. Some people are just toxic that way. Because I don't think collecting plants for bragging rights is very healthy. That's just me. feel free to disagree. And second, over the past 2 years or so, I got a lot of comments from some of you guys asking me to acquire a ghost orchid and talk about it in a video and make a care tutorial and all of that. Well, my friends, sadly, ghost orchids, as far as my research goes, they're endangered. And also the fact that I don't seem to find them all that easy or almost at all means they're probably not obtained in cultivation on a large scale at least. So most probably anything that I would find for sale is coming from the wild. And that's just not something I feel comfortable with. Reason why I do not believe I'm gonna purchase it anytime soon, because I don't have faith that it's ethically acquired. So I know that 99.9% of you did not know that it is an endangered species. Now you do. You'll probably not see it on my channel. And also, I would love it if you would reconsider purchasing it. If you see it for sale at this random seller that you don't know anything about, reconsider purchasing it on the spot and maybe do more research, or maybe just don't buy it just yet. Let it become popular and obtained in cultivation, and then everything is okay. But now, I don't feel that it's ethically sourced. Okay, let's talk about lighter things. Reason number 2 for liking orchid hybrids is that they are much easier to find. I do see that species are a little bit more rare. I'm a little afraid to use this word. Okay, they're a little bit more uncommon at orchid nurseries than hybrids are. And when I say hybrids, I don't necessarily mean these two hybrids. Mini Phalaenopsis are hybrids too. Those guys are available in flower shops, and they're available almost all of the time. If it's not a mini Phalaenopsis, it's a standard size Phalaenopsis. If it's not a Phalaenopsis and you're a little bit lucky, it's a Dendrobium or an Oncidium. They are relatively easy to find in regards to species. When was the last time you found a species in a random flower shop? Because I tell you, in my parts of the world, it never happened, ever. Like, ever. I really need to go to nurseries to find species. In flower shops, there's only hybrids. And you know what? That's fine, because the hybrids are just so beautiful and easy to acquire. You just need to go to the flower shop, buy your orchid, bring it home. Hey presto, you have a wonderful, wonderful orchid to make your day better. Oh, this one is fragrant. It smells lovely. Reason number 3, why I prefer hybrids. In many cases, they are actually more vigorous. And not only that, they grow faster. And here I am side-eyeing Cattleyas. I'm talking to you, young lady. My goodness, there are some Cattleya species which only grow 1 pseudobulb per year, which means they only bloom once a year. And if we miss the window of opportunity and the pseudobulb is set back, we're gonna have to wait years for another mature pseudobulb that can bloom. Do I wanna go through that? No. What I prefer are hybrids. Some hybrids bloom on each pseudobulb. You don't believe me? I'll just show you the example that I have right next to me. Here she is. This is my wonderful jungle eyes that my mom brought. When did I make that little video with one of the flowers being a little wonky, like a couple of months ago? Okay. She has a new growth, and I can already see the buds in the new growth, because while this pseudobulb was in bloom, this one was growing, and this one grows really fast. And guess what? Blooms on each pseudobulb. This is an Eclandiae hybrid. Eclandiae as a species, I think it blooms only once a year. Well, the hybrid looks very similar to Eclandiae, but blooms all the time. It's a no-brainer. Of course I'm gonna prefer this one. I don't care that I have the Eclandiae and that I can brag that I have the Eclandiae. No, I want the jungle eyes. It blooms all the time. It's what I'm here for. Reason number 4 for preferring hybrids. They have, generally speaking, the most amazing shapes, colors, patterns, fragrances. I know the species are wonderful, and I'm not gonna lie to you, as a species, I think orchids are the best plants on earth. That's why I'm collecting them. This does not exist in the wild. This pattern, with this coloration, anything similar, again, doesn't really exist. This beautiful concentration of little lines, it does not exist, and I don't know if it will ever exist. This pattern is possible because this is a hybrid. Also, there are many hybrids which look more or less like one of the parents, but borrow other traits from the other parents, such as fragrance. But imagine a species, beautiful species, has no scent, sadly. You manage to obtain a hybrid that looks very, very similar to the species, gets the best traits out of the species, but also has a fragrance. Again, no-brainer. Wouldn't you prefer the hybrid? I would. I definitely would. And that's pretty much what happens with most hybrids. If it wasn't for hybridization, my favorite orchid of all time would not exist, and that's the Nelly Eiler. Reason number 5, they're more affordable. Did you notice that the Bellina, the Schilleriana, beautiful orchids, but did you notice they are more expensive than your average miniature Phalaenopsis or flower shop Phalaenopsis? Here I have the wonderful pink flamingo. I think this one, no joke, is 3 times cheaper or more affordable than the Schilleriana. Sure, they are different, but overall, hybrids can actually be cheaper than species. Now, if it's a brand new hybrid obtained on the market until it gets cloned, yes, it will be more expensive. You don't have to buy it. There are so many hybrids that are beautiful out there. But generally speaking, species do tend to have a bit of a higher price tag than average hybrids. There are species which are more affordable, of course, but I do feel like the species which are more popular in the hobby, they have a price tag, whereas hybrids, generally speaking, are pretty affordable, especially flower shop hybrids. I love mini Phalaenopsis. I could have a room full of them. They're so affordable, they're so tiny, so it's kind of doable to have a room full of them. I don't know if I could ever afford a room full of Schillerianas, to be honest. I don't think I even want to. I want the beautiful diversity of hybrids, rather. Reason number 6, here we go into the more serious side of things. I believe hybrids discourage plant monopoly. I'll call it like that. I don't think the term is coined. I'm gonna coin it. Plant monopoly. What is plant monopoly? The best way that I can explain it is by giving you an example from the houseplant world. Let's think of a houseplant that is so popular that kind of overshadows pretty much everything else. A monstera, maybe Thai constellation, maybe albo, whatever. I might be a little late to the game. I think there are others which are more notorious, but anyway, let's just take monstera. For a while, it was so popular that out of all of those so-called rare plants, that was the one you wanted to have, and only that. There wasn't really any competition, it's wrong to say, but it wasn't a competition between those plants. You just wanted to have the monstera, everything else was or maybe the pink princess. That one had its moment as well. It was always a singular plant that was catching all of the attention. Well, with hybrids, you can't really have that because there are just so many of them, or at least they open the door for so many of them that you cannot have one orchid that everybody wants and all the others nobody really does want anymore. I don't see that happening with orchids. And I tried to think of the reason why in the orchid world we don't really have that, I don't know, the monstera effect or obliqua effect. I don't know all of these houseplants. We don't have that effect with orchids. I used to think it was because we have a lot of orchids. But why do we have a lot of orchids? Because we have a lot of hybrids. If you take species that are very popular and you put them in comparison to hybrids, you will notice that the amount of hybrids we have is incredibly higher than the species. So I do believe that helps in establishing or not establishing a monopoly of one orchid to rule them all. Yes, we like the Nelly Eiler, but we also like the Francis Fox and the Jungle Eyes, and also that beautiful flower shop white Phalaenopsis with the big lip, Ice Whisper. And we also like some Paphiopedilums, but we also like the Sherry Baby, which is a hybrid, of course. It smells like chocolate. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy it exists. So it's hard to create a so-called plant monopoly and inevitably this really big demand which drives prices to very, very high levels if we have a lot of hybrids or a lot of orchids. And species, the number of species theoretically is a lot more limited than the number of hybrids. The sky's the limit with the hybrids. You always can create new hybrids. You cannot always create new species, right? And if in nature we only discover 10 species, let's say, well, that's all there is to it, 10 species. Hybrids, limitless. And reason number 7, and I'll let you go after this one, I promise, is that hybrids, generally speaking, are not affected by trends. What do I mean by this? Yes, they might be affected by trends. 10 years ago, maybe particular hybrids were more trendy than some that are trendy today. Yeah, but does anybody really mind if some hybrids go out of trend? Not really. I mean, I might mind if I don't find the Nelly Eiler one day, but I'll move on. It certainly has no repercussions on the environment. Imagine the following scenario. We start to collect this ghost orchid all of a sudden, and there are so few specimens left in the wild that it becomes extremely endangered. So we over-collect it for a few years and then it falls out of trend because that's what trends do, and sadly for some people, plants are fashion. So it falls out of trend, people lose it, they're not interested in it anymore, maybe they neglect it, they maybe are not even selling it because maybe the price went down because it's not trendy anymore, and it kind of disappears from our collections just as fast as it appeared. What are we left with? An orchid that we don't have in cultivation anymore, and also we don't have in nature anymore either because the trend wiped it from the face of the earth. Is that a very possible scenario? I don't know. I really don't. In my mind, I can see it happen because in all of these years that I've been on YouTube, I've seen stuff happening. And when I think something is impossible, somehow I'm proven wrong. So I learned kind of to expect the impossible sometimes. In the end, if you love orchid species, great. I do love them too, some of them I really do, and I'm not saying you should never buy species. I do want to bring attention to the fact that, yes, there is a problem with some orchid species. They are becoming extinct because we're collecting them. So I would ask that you are careful where you buy them from and think twice why you are purchasing that orchid. It doesn't matter really what orchids you have. You're not trying to impress anybody here, really. You're just trying to have a beautiful plant in your home. That should be your mentality. I try actively to show you so many orchids just so that one doesn't have a monopoly. But, you know, sometimes maybe I mess up as well. And I don't want us as a community to do harm to orchids. We want to grow them. I think collecting species is absolutely fine, but for those more, let's say, obscure species or rarer species, I think people who do conservation work, they're a lot more qualified to collect them than I am, than we are, generally speaking. I don't know who is watching this video. Maybe you are into conservation, so obviously, I'm talking about us home growers. We don't have to have all of these species. Maybe people who are qualified should actually have them. They should make sure that they don't go extinct. We don't have to add to this abusive collecting of plants and orchids. So yeah, that was the topic for today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I tried to make it lighthearted, but the subject is serious, and I hope we can treat it seriously from now on. And as I was saying, hybrids rule. I love hybrids. Oh my gosh, you guys, the Nelly Eiler is the hybrid. I love my hybrids. I could give up all of my species just to have the hybrids. I would. I'm not into conservation. I don't have the ability to do so. I'm good with these little hybrids. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I have trust in our community that we're always going to try and do the best thing. So if you've enjoyed this video, subscribe for more videos, and I hope you'll have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye!